Because what a T-Rex would do is it would come in to an animal, go bite, pull back with its legs, and then sit back and wait for that thing to bleed out. Just follow you around. It's exactly what a shark does. Okay, so each week I try to emphasize a different thing, and then I try to make sure that during the 2 weeks to follow that we kind of emphasize this. Last week I just gave an overview of anatomy. This week I'm going to concentrate on the spine, which is a really important thing. Okay, so what we're going to do is talk about spine. Spine is made up of those lovely little discs called vertebrae. Fine. And so we're going to talk about the different sections of it. Here at the top of the neck, last week I talked about the 6 curves that are required to keep your organs in and on balance over your hips and feet. I'm going to just talk about the top 4. Top section is the 7 cervical vertebrae. These are in your neck, right about there. And you can see them with the blue line there, or the blue band, I guess. Next are the thoracics. Those are the ones that are hidden behind your ribs. And they're behind the orange section. Next section is the lumbar. This is that lower back, which geez, in the morning. Okay, you're not old enough, but some of you might be soon. And that's the green section. Next section should be the sacrum. Sacrum's the pelvis. Those vertebrae are actually encased in the pelvis, so you don't really see them very much. But nonetheless, they're there. Occasionally, when you get hit right on, quote, the tailbone, you're actually hitting the bottom of the sacrum, not the actual tailbones. And that hurts like crazy. That's the only ramification I've seen generally in martial arts. And finally, the coccyx. They're 4 little ones that kind of tail inwards, and the word tail was a dad joke because it's actually your vestigial tail. So those are the 5 sections of the spinal vertebra. If you take one of those discs and look at it, 4 nerve bundles are coming out. On the back side, going out to the right are the sensory for your right side. Going out to the left side are your sensory. Then on the inside, on your front side of the vertebra, are 2 more bundles coming out, and those are for the motor. Those are the things that allow you to move things and innervate the muscles. So it's important to know where those bundles are. We'll talk about them as we go along in the next few weeks. Dermatomes. I just told you the bundles coming out of each of the vertebrae go to sensors. Which sensors? Well, C1, C2, the cervicals, the top ones, the green ones up there, generally are for the head, shoulders, and most of the arms, not quite. The lumbar, the ones behind the ribs, are the dermatomes, are the ones that sense what you feel throughout your chest area. Then lumbar region, that's that lower back section right in there, colored in purple. That's most of the legs, kind of the hip area. And then the sacrum, those are the bundles inside the pelvis, so they're fairly well protected, are kind of your rump and going up down the back of the legs. Okay, cool. Now, last week I made a mistake because you guys, cocky people, Cal students, always wanting questions, I said, hey, the spine was made because we are 4-legged and all the organs hung down. But we stood up and now we can use our hands. And because of that, we had to put that S curve into the spine. Somebody said, wait a minute, there's 2-footed dinosaurs. Well, you made a mistake when you said that because I love dinosaurs. So I'm going to compare us to a T-Rex. I have my reasonings for it, but hey, it's just fun. Bottom line is, I told you we have 7 cervical vertebrae in your neck. T-Rex has 10. Oh, okay. And oh, by the way, do look at the ratio of the sizes between the T-Rex and us. Number 2, thoracics. We have 12. That's behind the chest. T-Rex has 13. Interesting. Lumbar. That's that open section here around our tummies. We have 5. T-Rex has 0. Why? Because there's people who need therapy occasionally. He's laughing because he loves the lumbar region. It makes him money. Okay? Next, The sacrum, we have 5. T-Rex has 5. See, I told you you had something in common with T-Rex. And then at the end, T-Rex has 40-ish. Why 40-ish? We don't know, because we've never found a perfect T-Rex. And so at least 40 or 41 at the moment, but it could, right at the end, have a couple of extras. We're just not quite sure. But nonetheless, about 40-ish. Now, you might ask the question, where are injuries? Because in martial arts, you're always trying to protect themselves, like him. You're always trying to protect yourself against various injuries. Okay, fine. Where do humans have the most injuries? In the cervical spine, that's in the neck, and in the lumbar region. We don't have nearly as many in the thoracic region, the chest region, or the sacrum. Okay, fine. On a T-Rex, oh, by the way, with T-Rexes, we have found a number of skeletons. And where are the damage? At least the damage that they heal from. And the bottom line is in the tail. Notice they don't have a lumbar region, which would be very vulnerable in humans. It allows us to move our legs, etc., etc. But we have a lumbar region. The T-Rex does not. Okay? And if you look at the neck, the cervical area, the T-Rex has this huge, thick neck. Why? Because what a T-Rex would do is it would come in to an animal, go bite, pull back with its legs, and then sit back and wait for that thing to bleed out. Just follow you around. It's exactly what a shark does. That's why so many humans survive shark attacks. The shark comes in and smacks you. If it doesn't kill you right off the bat, gets you on a leg, something like that, it then backs off and just starts circling you, waiting for you to bleed out. That way you can't thrash around and hurt it. If you happen to escape to the sand, all right, fine, you escape to the sand. Apparently T-Rex did the same thing, but it had a very, very strong neck, and therefore that was some of the protection again. So for humans, going back to you boring humans, see, T-Rexes are much more interesting, but to the boring T-Rexes, that means we have to pay a certain amount of attention to the neck region and to the lumbar region. And we do spend a fair amount of that time trying to strengthen that during our various exercises. Here is some musculature in your back. Now, on your back, you have, here's the spine. You can see these little points that are sticking out here. They're protecting the spine somewhat. There are muscles that go straight up and down. They're not rector spinae. Right there. They're one of the few muscles that go straight up and down. And they help straighten the back. All the rest crisscross in various ways. Your rump going all the way up. The latissimus dorsi. This is the main muscle for, when you go, well, maybe you do that in front of the mirror and you look at your muscles. That latissimus dorsi is the thing that sticks out to the side. It is very important for this motion. We're going like this, any kind of twist to the side. And so, all of these muscle groups have crisscrossings to it. And it's very important in how you do your exercises. So, I generally don't like to see exercises in a straight line, because there's so few muscles that it actually helps. Most of our exercises are twists to the side in various patterns. On the back of this creature, us, something called the scapula. It's this flat thing here. The scapula actually has a whole lot of uses. Many, many uses. To start with, what happens is when you shrug your back like this, your scapulas slide in and actually protect. They're like a door. They actually protect the spine. So when you take a fall, that slap, your scapula is pulling in, and that actually is protecting your spine across the thoracic region. Well, you really want to protect that spine, so that's a very important thing. Other things, unfortunately, it has a lot of other uses. It's very complicated. For example, it's a very important part about your shoulder, and therefore the movement of the arms. It even goes on some esoteric type things. Just on the inside right here are a whole bunch of lymph nodes, and part of your immune system. Drainage for injuries, things like that. So this lovely little single bone, scapula, has all of these lovely uses. We want to use them specifically for keeping the arms toned and for protecting the back, the thoracic region of the back. So, what do we got here? So, we have exercises that I'd like to pay some attention to. The cervical region, this toning of your neck, for example, is very important. And I have a series of things here, the movements, light and otherwise. Problem with neck exercises is people are always giving you exercises that might get you hurt. So for example, when I was in wrestling, we were always doing things like that. Well, this isn't very intelligent. If you have a weak neck, you can hurt yourself very easily. And I don't want you hurting yourself. But nonetheless, eventually, with a little bit of work, you can get to the point where at least you can do it lightly. Or maybe you're on your hands and knees and just doing this. Nonetheless, people are very careful with that, as they should be. And so most of the exercises you'll see are non-weight bearing. There'll be things like this, where you're not putting any weight on your head, but stretching and keeping it toned. Absolutely agree with that. If you look at, anybody follow F1? What's the number one injury in F1? Neck. You're sitting here driving at how fast? Did you follow Singapore today?
Yeah.
Yeah, God. At any rate, you're sitting here driving at 200 miles an hour, and suddenly, bam, you hit a wall. And they started having a lot of neck problems. So they made it mandatory that all of the drivers in F1 do those rubber band things where you put a rubber band around something and stretch to the side, and they'll put a collar on these guys when they're in the driver's seat. Okay? Love to do that to you, but it would probably impinge things. But nonetheless, preventing neck injury, very important. And this idea, when you walk in, I always think it's much smarter, well, old people like her might come in and kind of go like that naturally. Well, it's probably really important. So taking care of your neck. The thoracic region, it is protected, and I wanted to have a picture of a back fall. So I went on the internet, and I Googled back fall slap. Most amazing very first picture up was that one. Everybody know who that is? That's our Dr. Birch. He runs our judo. And in 2011, I wrote a book called The Anatomy of Martial Arts. And I brought a bunch of martial artists in for a 2-day photo shoot. And that was a picture that was in the book. But holy crap, I click on it. It wasn't my book, by the way. They stole it. What did they do? It was an article on how to safely fall for old people. Dr. Birch's picture was, this is the correct way to slap. And then there was another picture from another martial arts journal that had the hands way up here, and they said, this is the incorrect way. Yes! We did that right. Bottom line, talk to Dr. Birch. He's got a beautiful fall. So you get the idea. On the thoracic region, the idea of exercising the scapula, very important. This is why sometimes some of you guys will be asked to do push-ups from way out here. And the reason that you have the push-ups way out here with the fingers pointing out is because it pulls the scapula in and exercises a slightly different set of muscles than it does when you have the hands directly under. A lot of times you'll have people who say, oh, the only way to do a correct push-up is having the hands directly under the shoulders. Bull twaddle! There's lots of ways of doing it. There's all kinds of ways. Heck, you could do them from your fingertips. Bottom line, every different push-up has a different set of muscles that you might play with. And you should play with them. Even if you're intelligent, like most of you probably are, and do them from your knees. That would be a smart thing. Or even put a medicine ball right in front of your belly button. Just rock back and forth until you feel comfortable. Lumbar region. Remember, cervical and lumbar are the two areas that I'm really worried about. So for the lumbar region, the tone strengthening, here's a whole series of things for strengthening your back. Things like pelvic thrusts, all kinds of actions that you can do to strengthen, tone, and stretch. It's no good to sit here going, oh, yes, I can do 1,000 of these. That's fine, but it's only doing one subset of the muscles. And all of your muscle movements in your body are two sets of muscles working with each other. If you're only working on one, it's It's not a good exercise. So make sure that you do a balanced set of exercises. And then the sacrum. Funny thing is, I looked up exercises for sacrum, and almost all of them said, take up belly dancing. Okay, fine. My mother belly danced until she was 80, so I guess it was a good thing. She had little castanets. She's a very Berkeley mother. Bottom line is, there are different ways, but most of it in martial arts comes from the rotation that we do in the hips for various kicks. And you'll notice that we rotate in, out, and to the side, and those become very important. And my 15 minutes is up. Questions on the spine? None? Okay, so that is the end of this week's. In 2 weeks hence, I will be talking about the legs. And we'll go through some kicking type stuff. No questions? Last chance?
Hi.
Sir?
So the best way to prevent injury is, aside from good technique, is proper warm-up where it's sweating, correct?
Toning, strengthening, and stretching in about equal quantities. Why I love yoga, you watch these people, or even Tai Chi, they don't do quite as much, and in fact, some of the Tai Chi instructors say you have to do more of the strengthening. Now, they use isometric exercises, like, for example, but not all Tai Chi teaches those. And especially in the old people, my father, before he passed away, stayed in one of those communities for the elderly, and they had a Tai Chi person, and he never did the breathing exercise, and they said, why not? He said, oh, they're too old, they can't strengthen. Bull twaddle, you can strengthen your whole life. And so there was a bit of a debate on that subject, shall we say. But strengthening, absolutely. Toning, absolutely. And stretching, about in equal quantities.
Can you explain to me what toning means?
Anybody know what tone means? I'm going to go to the professional on this.
So, if you ever had something that's really floppy, like your arms, so you have to have muscles working in both directions, right, to have tone. So, although young people want big muscles, they tend to overemphasize one and not emphasize the other. Tone is having balance between them, so that they actually can support weight, which is why you can think of someone like Bruce Lee or other smaller people have a lot more capacity to tone, and people who are really big are not as toned, right? In fact, when you have hamstring pulls or those things, you're actually having one series of muscles pull off the bone because the other one is too strong, right? So, that's why hurdlers and people who are doing running, right? So if they overdevelop their quadriceps or their hamstrings, they're not toned, they're not equally pulling, right? So you have to have equal tonus in both directions in order for the muscle to be healthy. And that's much stronger than it being bigger in a lot of ways. Right?
Thank you.
So last week I was talking about ligaments, okay? Anybody remember anything else I talked about last week? 2 weeks ago. Tendons, tendons, and the muscles. All three together, going with Dr. Huff's comment, have to be stretched and strengthened, and in such a way that they balance. So for example, you have the biceps attaching in here, going to the front of the arm. Well, you have to make sure that the triceps on the back of the arm also are in balance. Most sports where you have to last a long period of time, soccer, for example, long distance runners, they don't look fully ripped, right? And people go, oh, they're not. I've seen guys go all, six-pack and da-da-da. Well, if you're totally ripped, you probably are not perfectly toned. And it's that balance between the two. That's not to say all of us should look that flabby. I'm getting old, I know. But the bottom line is there is a balance to how those muscles are used, how they're stretched, how they're toned and strengthened. And it's a hard thing to keep that balance. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Anyone else? Okay, that's it. We will get on to our workout. Take a quick water break. I will put this stuff away. Thank you very much.